If there are folks tonight who want to make public comments, this is your last opportunity to sign up to do so, and I've got the sign-up sheet right here. If you've not done so, last chance. Okay, good deal. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the regular Town Council, the Weaverville Town Council meeting of Monday, February 26, 2024. Are there any, you all have had an opportunity to review tonight's agenda. Are there any adjustments that you made to the agenda?
Yes, I have an adjustment I'd like made to the agenda. I would like items E and F moved into discussion and action items.
E and F of the consent agenda?
Of the consent agenda, yeah, I'm sorry, moved into discussion. I agree.
Okay.
I will second that.
Okay, very good. So we're going to move items E and F of the consent agenda onto the end of tonight's discussion and action items. Okay, so under H, we'll do 9 Pleasant Grove and 6 Pleasant Grove items at that time as discussion items. Good?
Thank you.
Any others? I also have a proclamation that I'd like to add to the consent agenda for this evening, commemorating Blue Mountain Pizza for the 20th anniversary here in Weaverville. Being added to the consent agenda. Are there any other adjustments to tonight's agenda? Very good. Let me remind everyone that it's the duty of the mayor. Oh, that's a good idea. So is there a motion to approve the agenda with the adjustments that I've just mentioned?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. It is the duty of the mayor and every council member to avoid both conflicts of interest and the appearances of conflicts. Does any member have any known conflicts of interest or appearance of conflicts with respect to any matters on tonight's agenda? Hearing none, very good, thank you. I would just like to mention to folks that early voting for this for the upcoming primaries goes to this coming Saturday at the community center, and I urge you all to vote if you've not done so. I voted today. I'm proudly wearing my little sticker here. And just if you think it's not important, let me just tell you that a large public, political action committee meeting that happened last week started off with this quote. The speaker at the opening of this session said, "Welcome to the end of democracy. We are here to overthrow it completely. We didn't get all the way there on January 6th, but we will endeavor to get rid of it and replace it. So if you think it's not important, your vote's not important, you're wrong. Please go vote." So first item up is the consent agenda. Town Manager Coffey, can you go through it for us?
Yes, thank you and good evening to all of you. Consent agenda begins on page 3 with your January 16th Town Council Workshop minutes, followed by January 22nd, regular meeting minutes, and then followed by, on page 14, beginning on page 14, a monthly tax report and request for refunds and releases. The summary is also there on page 15, and then there's backup information as well. The monthly tax report shows 96.89% of the town's property taxes collected as of the end of January, exactly where we should be. In fact, the county is doing a very good job at collecting these taxes. Just to note, there's still $130,938 left to be collected. The second part of this is the motor vehicle levy release refund information, and you see that in the small table there at the last third of the page for property tax levy release and refund of $2.13, and then motor vehicle levy and release and refund for $117.23. We would ask for approval of these by Town Council. Then moving on to page 20, beginning on page 20, you have a budget amendment for the police department. This is for $760.11 for alcohol education and $542.94 for law enforcement. So both of those are actually funds from the ABC store distributions and go to the police for those specific programs. Beginning on page 22, we remove that. So strike that. That has been moved to discussion. So pages 22 through 30 yes, 32, actually, through,
41.
actually 40, all the way through. Those are moved to discussion. Apologies for forgetting that so quickly. Beginning on page 41, you have a set of code amendments. These are directly related to environmental protection, including steep slope regulation, mountain ridge protection, and various aspects of the stormwater management program. It is because of legal authority to implement the environmental protection regulations contained within Chapter 160D, which you all discussed a number of times. A planning board review and recommendation is necessary, and a public hearing must be held prior to any action being taken by town hall or by town council. Town council is asked to schedule a public hearing on these proposed code amendments for March 25th at 6 p.m. That's your regularly scheduled meeting. Beginning on page 4 are revisions to the Weaverville Tailgate Market Memorandum of Understanding. And this is very simply to allow the tailgate market to utilize the smaller multi-purpose room in addition to the larger room for their market days. No other changes to the MOU other than that.
Are they not in the room on, in the 7 months in the summer?
Okay.
Just outside of the summer?
No, they're inside. They're inside the large room. I'm sorry, I thought you meant the small room. This is to add the small room to the availability, their availability as well. But yes, they are in the large room. Page 59 is the Earth Day 2024 proclamation, designating Monday, April 22nd as Earth Day, and encouraging folks to use less plastic and create a healthier planet. And you see a list of bullets there. We encourage folks to avoid single-use plastics such as drinking straws, switch to reusable water bottles or coffee mugs, carry and use reusable cloth bags when shopping, replace Tupperware and plastic containers with glass or steel containers, be mindful of synthetic clothing materials when shopping for clothes, and recycle plastic waste in the correct recycling containers, as well as reuse plastic containers instead of throwing them away. And then the addition tonight to add the Blue Mountain 20th anniversary proclamation is included within consent.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the town manager regarding the consent agenda?
There, if I could interrupt for just 1 second. The January 22nd set of minutes, Vice Mayor Cordell had asked that we amend that to include her report for NPO. Is that right?
Well, the two comments that were not exactly, I wanted to clarify those comments.
So those we have received that, so there is a slight amendment just for clarity around the NPO report from last month.
Any other?
I have one question on the Earth Day proclamation for the town manager. Do we have the opportunity to further wordsmith the proclamation itself?
Absolutely.
Especially in the preamble. I appreciate it passive this. I think when it starts by saying protect the negative impacts, that's actually contrary to the intent of the document. So it should be protect against, or perhaps
We can make that
protest
correction.
against.
Okay.
So,
Let's go make that change now, shall we? Good?
something like that.
Thank you for bringing that up. Any other questions or comments regarding the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Next up is the town manager's report. Manager Coffey?
Yes, thank you. First of all, on page 60, beginning on page 60, you have an update on the recreation complex programming. We opened up the rec complex on February 3rd. Basically what happens is Public Works unlocks the doors in the mornings and then checks the net height. That's very important to pickleball folks, and so they check the net height and adjust that however they need to each morning. The basketball and pickleball courts have been in heavy use on the nice days, and some even on the not so nice days, actually. We're seeing folks of all ages using both sets of courts. We have made some adjustments and will continue to make some adjustments with regard to the closure of the courts as we hear from town council and obviously the public. As we look at the warmer months and specifically how the pickleball courts and the tailgate market impact each other. So we will have to be cognizant of those changes and potential for changes. We are using Team Reach as a mode of communication for pickleballers, and I received an update today from one of the ad hoc recreation committee members who shared with me that as of right now, we have about 145 people signed up for this. We started off with like 25, so we've had quite a few folks signing up and downloading the application to be able to schedule to play there. Short-term rentals listening sessions, you all have received a copy of the short-term rental report. It is also located on the website. Kayla Christina will be presenting her findings at the next planning board meeting on Thursday, March 7th. OSHA consultation visits went very well for our departments. I want to congratulate and thank all the departments for doing such a good job at preparing for OSHA, but more importantly, preparing for every day in your departments, in your physical facilities. It's very important that we maintain a good place for a good and safe place for our employees as well as our visitors. So thank you all for your work towards that end. Eller Cove Watershed Trail System update. I have received the final report on the Eller Cove Trail System. However, have not received the Quarry Road report, and we felt like it would be appropriate to hold on the Eller Cove Watershed report until the Quarry Road Trail System report is complete, so that Elevated Trail Designs owner Peter Mills will be in attendance at the meeting after that's complete to present it. So another big topic of involvement from the community and staff and all of you has been the impact of noise with the pickleball courts. And so want to give Dale Pennell credit. He has been spending a substantial amount of time at researching, looking into the options and what we can do to at least reduce the noise with the courts in place. And so you will see there, beginning on page 60 and go into page 61, what our plans are. Dale has ordered the acoustical dampening materials. They're set to be shipped in 1 to 4 days. So as soon as we receive those, they will be placed, and you see on page 61 in the illustration, you see the dark line there. The acoustical panels are initially going to be installed on those ends. And then up above there to the north, and then along Lakeshore Drive, we're looking at vegetative buffer. That's step one. We do not assume that will take care of all of the noise. And so our plan is that we'll put these two measures in place, and then we'll go back and take a look at how everything is going and how the noise, if it's posed a sufficient reduction in noise coming from the pickleball courts. And then if we need to do additional, we will do that. And so probably the next step would be to have, on the south side, to have another vegetative buffer. But I will tell you, if you've gone down there, it's a really tough spot because it is right off the embankment. It's pretty well sloped there. So that will be a tougher place for us to plant, but we can do it. As Mr. Pennell says, with good engineering and money, we can do just about anything. So we are making progress. Again, we don't assume that this is going to be the final version of where we are, but we are moving in that direction. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to just say, as you know, there's been some communication with Michael Stewart and his neighbors on Metcalf Road, And he asked me, he can't be here this evening, he asked me to specifically tell Selena and Dale how he's very pleased with the responses and the progress you've made. And he says, please convey my appreciation to both of you for your help on this.
Thank you. Thank you to Mr. Stewart as well. Active Weaverville Committee update. You see two specific areas there that the Active Weaverville Committee has been working on. The first project is focused on narrowing the intersection of Hillside and South Main, and this is covered in pages 68 through 69 in the Active Weaverville Plan. This is what the committee views as a quick win, in that our Public Works Department can make some additions there in the way of painting and also some delineator posts for that intersection to have a more walkable and safe area there. The second project the committee has been discussing is the Main Street Streetscape project, and that's on pages 86 through 88. I encourage you all to take another look at the Active Weaverville Plan. I know that for me, it had been a while since I had read it, so I went back and looked at it. So I encourage you all to take another look at it as well. This second project would require substantial funding, therefore, and also participation from NCDOT. So we're working at just seeing where we can go with that second project, and we'll bring an update to you as soon as we can, as soon as we have more information there. On page 62, the manager's report continues, and this is regarding the deceased ducks at Lake Louise Park. We have now had 3 ducks that we found that were deceased, and as you all are aware, we did send the initial 2 ducks to the first laboratory at the University of Georgia, and they have now been sent to a second lab for secondary testing. The district biologist has shared with me that there have been occasions where the initial lab was wrong. Therefore, they are sending this to the second lab, which is in Minnesota. So we will potentially have different information, or at least confirmation of the initial information that was provided. I do want to reiterate that the avian flu that was found in the preliminary reports is rare to impact humans or other animals. It is focused primarily on birds, and so this is not a human. It's not necessarily a human issue, but we do encourage folks that see ducks that may be sick, or certainly deceased ducks, do not touch them. And unfortunately, we did have a number of folks that were very involved, and we've tried to spread the word as best we can. We also have some folks that live off of Metcalf that I know of, and then in the vicinity behind there, who have chickens, and so what we consider backyard flocks, and so we have tried to spread the word on social media to get the word out there to folks. We're not sure of everyone who has chickens at their homes, so it's really difficult for us to get the word out other than doing our best with social media and press releases. The Dry Ridge Historical Museum, thank you to Councilmember Wood for letting me know that this was not included in the agenda. It was supposed to be attached to my manager's report, and it's basically an annual report from 2023 from the Dry Ridge Historical Museum folks. In the way of information, we are starting the budget process. Our first workshop will be March 19th for Town Council, and at that time, Ms. Dozier will be presenting to you the preliminary revenue projections as we begin the process. But we also would like for you to have some discussion and talk about things that you would like to see in the upcoming year's budget. It's very helpful for us in developing a budget, not just me, but the department heads and Ms. Dozier, when we hear from you as to what you would like to see in a budget. And so it helps us to have a better understanding of where we go. So I've given you some questions there that you may just contemplate as to what you would like to see. Are you opposed to fee increases, tax increases? Do you have ideas for new programs that you would like council to discuss? That type of thing. We did have a meeting with Duke Energy regarding fast charging stations for our EVs that we now have. Just to let you all know, we now have three EV Mach-E's, and then we have one truck, Lightning, which is completely electric as well. So we are moving forward, and again, give kudos to Chief Davis for moving us along in this direction at the police department.
Selena, if we have a question on item you want us to hold to the end of your
No,
presentation.
so you can ask your question.
I would like to know what, Dale, you can answer this, what is, you use the term fast charging. I use that loosely because I know that, the federal government's looking at putting in, quote, fast charging. And they run about $250,000 on the rest stops. I don't think that's what we're talking about.
That is what we're talking about.
Well, you met, so I was just asking.
So Doug, I actually had one of the discussions with Duke. They are expensive.
Chief Davis is probably a good one to answer that question. Just for everyone's information, Mr. Pennell doesn't yet have EVs on his fleet, but we're working towards it, aren't we? Yes, absolutely. Chief, if you would come to the podium and share with us your information that you have.
Good evening. I'm sorry, can you hear me, or am I going to have to bend over awkwardly? In the report that I have, we have a total of 6 charging points that are out back. Those are not fast chargers. We did communicate. We met with Duke Power. Those are fast chargers. So we were trying to see what it might take to engineer those or to expand our police fleet and to expand the town's fleet to get to that point. We are not anywhere close to coming with some type of a idea on how much they might cost or if this project is even feasible. But yes, we are trying to talk to them because the only way that I can see that we can expand our fleet is to get have the ability to rapidly charge police cars. No big deal for staff people, and that's 2 Mach-E's and 1 truck, not 3.
Okay.
Point of correction. But we might be able to get there depending on what Duke Power might say.
Chief, do you, in response to Councilman's question, do you have an idea of what a fast charger is running?
The equipment itself, my understanding, is about $80,000. It depends on, a lot of it is engineering, electrical engineering, transformers, things of that nature, site preparation. We think that it will cost around $200,000, but we're not quite sure. And that's, they could spread that cost out, last I heard, over a 5-year period to upgrade that infrastructure as needed as that technology improves.
Yeah, from what I've read, and I'm not an expert at all, but the power requirements for Duke would be a major cost of this.
I can't speak for Duke. I know that the plugs that we are using right now are very similar to that of a dryer at your home, a home dryer. It's 240 volts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. While you're standing there, might as well skip to the part about the good part, as they say, for you. Chief is retiring, and we will be having a reception for him on March 21st, but congratulations publicly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on from that, I believe I saw her in the audience. She's sinking lower as I look at her, is our current Assistant Chief Oberlin, but soon to be Chief Oberlin. She will become Chief on April 1, and want to both congratulate her and thank her for taking on this task. But it's a very bittersweet time for all of us. We will certainly miss Chief Davis, but we're in good hands with soon-to-be Chief Oberlin. Early voting, the mayor has already discussed. One other item that I do want to circle back to, and I haven't heard from all of you on this, but I did ask you for your input regarding the large sycamore between Town Hall and the Maggie B's building. We are moving ahead on planning the removal of that tree, but the reuse of the wood. So we are going to, Mr. Pennell is scheduling to have that removed, and I ask that he do that. Get it scheduled before our spring and summer visitors start coming into town and having more traffic going around that circle out there. So the tree will be removed due to its decay to the point that it's unsafe now. We've tried our best for a number of years to save that tree, and unfortunately its time is here. And so but we are looking at the option of using the wood for carvings that will be placed back in that area. So we are moving forward with that. Thank you. Potential collaborations with the Weaverville Business Association. We have been working with the WBA with regard to potentially holding the candlelight stroll on the same day of the holiday parade this year. We will continue to update you as those conversations move forward. That is all for the town manager's report, Mr. Mayor.
Are there any other questions for the manager regarding the manager's report? None? Thank you, manager. Next item is item 6, general public comments. And we've got folks who have signed up tonight. So if you would, when you come, if you would please state your name and your address. And as you can hear, there will be a timer. You have 3 minutes to speak. We look forward to hearing from you. Please be mindful that you should be polite. First up is Bo Platt.
Good evening, Bo Platt, 3 Preston Court in Weaverville. And I was going to speak about one of the items on the that was moved to the consent agenda about the golf carts. And I just wanted to thank y'all for moving ahead with that and considering that.
Thank you, sir. Ward Patton.
Ward Patton, and this is Alexandra Bertram, and we're here representing Weaver House, and we have a idea that we'd like to propose to the town council. So ever since the noise ordinance was shifted from 11 o'clock until 10 o'clock, it has negatively impacted our business at Weaver House. We primarily cater to a clientele ranging between 25 and 35 on average, young people getting married. And it's really been a big issue for us during the summertime when it doesn't even get dark until maybe almost 9:30 at night. And the idea that we came up with, we thought this was pretty reasonable. We'd like just for you to consider it, is we'd like to have an opportunity to have a number of events that we could put together that we could extend on occasion with prior notice to push that back to the 11 o'clock. It wouldn't be like an everyday, every week thing. It would just be, we have people that will not book with us because they think 10 o'clock is just too early. And it has number of weddings that we had last year, and I'd like to have Alexandra speak to this about people that, since she's our booking agent for the weddings, to find out like what people really think about that. And it's definitely harmful to us. And I spoke to you before, we've been doing our best to be good citizens. We've opened up Weaver House to the tailgate market. We're going to be open every Sunday during the day for the month of March, we've got our smoker cranked up. We're going to have live music and invite people to come and enjoy the grounds of Weaver House. But we think that it's totally reasonable for us to have maybe a limited number of events that we could set up. I mean, people are booking 6 months, 8 months, 10 months ahead of time. We would know when they want to do it. And it's not a universal thing. Everybody doesn't want that, but a significant number of people think that we just are forced to close too early. And so we'd like just to throw that out and see how you feel about it.
Thank you very much. I think that's up for discussion later, Matt. Should be more options. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Alexandra. Hope you guys are having a good week.
If you'll hold on, I have
Okay.
to reset. Can you give us your last name?
Bertram, Alexandra Bertram. I've been working at Weaver House for 5 years, and I've been there through the change of the 11 o'clock to the 10 o'clock, and there was a significant impact where we made that transition, and I think we've done a good job. But we are asking for a couple maybe permits that we can request in advance, maybe possibly pay a fee, something that we'd work out so everyone around us would know. It would not be a surprise to anybody. Not only for weddings, but I'm also a WBA member. I know that Music on Main is coming up. So that event, I believe, ends at 9, but it would be a good opportunity for us to have kind of like a continuing the celebration. So not only for weddings, but also to kind of partner up with the town for some of those bigger community events. That's all I got. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Next up is Doug Dennison.
I'm Doug Dennison, and I'm here to voice my opposition to making any exception to the noise ordinance for the Weaver House that I understand is under consideration. I live right next door and have been there for 24 years. Being a neighbor to the Weaver House is awful. There are prolonged outbursts of screaming and shouting by 200 to 300 people. High volume, high intensity music that penetrates the very walls of the house with relentless bass drum beating and beating, causing cognitive dissonance, stress, and guaranteed to give you a headache. It's impossible to work or to concentrate. When it's all over, there are loud breakdown noises, sometimes as late as midnight. Noise from the Weaver House could be considered a nuisance, as defined by Chapter 9, Section 9, 201. Even the thought of more noise at the Weaver House is devastating to me. As a matter of record, we know that the Weaver House impacts the neighbors negatively. Just check out the number of complaints. I don't call anymore because there's little surveillance or enforcement. In light of this, why would the town council even consider any exceptions? Certainly, approval would be the kiss of death for the neighbors. We might have to move as Weaver House gets more and more special consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Janie Neely.
I'm Janie Neely, and I live at 18 Alabama Avenue, and I want to object to any change in the noise ordinance or special event regulations that would allow amplified noise after 10 o'clock. And by the way, I don't remember it being allowed till 11 before the new ordinance or the revised ordinance, but maybe it was. But 10 o'clock for us is plenty late. Anything changed for Weaver House will affect other businesses too. So, you know, if the Japanese restaurant wants to have amplified sound after 10, then they can ask for a permit if this changes are made for the Weaver House. So it would open the door for other people to have these exceptions in town and bother people who live here in town. I don't know why they need the noise amplified, although if they're losing some business because of it, I'm sorry, we're losing our peaceful neighborhood. And they knew when they opened this place that we had no noise ordinances in town. And if it's extended, it's just going to create noise until midnight. We already insulate ourselves as much as possible from the noise at the Weaver House before and after 10 p.m. Please don't allow what would create more noise pollution for our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up is John Phillips.
Good evening. I'm John Phillips, 8 Valley Drive. I've been to your meetings for the last 2 years and haven't spoken, so I guess I got a big list tonight. I'll make it short. First up, I would respectfully ask that you give positive consideration to the code amendment that's on the agenda tonight. I live in the Reems Creek Golf Community, and we had a notice on the roads 5 months ago, that golf carts were illegal and people could be fined for driving them. That came as a bit of a shock for our residents because the golf course was established in 1988 and there have been golf carts on the streets fairly commonly, not a huge amount. And we've had some discussions with the police chief and the town manager, and I think there's a resolution that can be met to satisfy the concerns that citizens may have, as well as allowing us to have controlled access of golf carts on the streets there. So I would respectfully ask for you to consider that. I wanted to express, after coming to your meetings for a couple of years, deep gratitude for everybody's service. I've been so impressed with everything that the town does. All of the departments have been responsive. I've talked to almost every department at some time over the last 2 or 3 years. I'm currently the president of our HOA and just can't say enough. Specifically, a recent forward thinking that has gone on to request a tie-in of the water main between the Ponder property that's being proposed and a water main that's on Lakeway Circle. Just shows great forward thinking on the part of Dale and the whole town to make sure that the water distribution system is very sound, and the redundancy is nothing but a good thing to do. The second thing I would ask you to consider as you approach your budget cycle is consider the drainage systems in the town. In particular, I'm interested, of course, in Reems Creek Golf Community. Over the last 4 years, there's been at least 4 major sinkholes that have developed on the golf course. Those drain lines on the golf course are the same age pretty much as the drain lines that the town maintains under the roads. And the last thing we would want to have would be a sinkhole in the middle of High Bluff or one of the major streets in our community. So I appreciate your thoughts as you go forward on the budget process. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Kevin Ood. I hope if I pronounced your name correctly, sir.
Thank you. My name's Kevin Udy. I live at 20 Alabama Avenue. And first of all, I want to thank you guys for everything that you do to help keep this, like everything you contribute to making this such a good community to live in. I'm also here to speak about noise ordinance. I know this is something that's coming up in multiple ways, as with the pickleball courts earlier on the agenda. I also want to say that I enjoy having Weaver House in the neighborhood. I like how they've handled their parking area. I like it that the farmer's market has been there. My daughter was able to walk over and with her allowance money buy a loaf of bread. I do not want them in my house, however, and they are in my house when they have their music playing. It is louder in the house on some nights than we would listen to our own music in the house, and it vibrates our house. It vibrates the bed that we're trying to fall asleep in. I know earlier when the original 10 o'clock was set that there were different sides to this issue and that no one got exactly what they wanted, that I feel like we found a middle ground that was okay for everyone, and I expect that there will always have to be a middle ground, but I do request that the noise ordinance not be made any later at all. In fact, I would prefer it to be earlier. My family is kept up late on the nights there is music playing at Weaver House. In addition, when that previous conversation happened, one of the ideas that was discussed was requiring or voluntarily sound buffers put in. You guys mentioned this again with the pickleball courts, but planting trees to help provide sound buffer. I'd like to make sure that is, again, part of conversation. And also, I'd like to encourage you all, although I would prefer it not to be changed, if there is any change, please bear in mind that it does disrupt our sleep, our lives. And please, when you consider a limited number, again, I would like that number to be 0, but I would encourage it to be, have a specific number, and that no more than that. And I thank you, Weaver House, for mentioning the idea of making sure that everyone was aware of things ahead of time. That does help. So thank you for hearing my comments. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And just as a reminder to those folks who spoke tonight, that both the golf cart amendment, potential amendments, and the Weaver House potential amendment are up for discussion on 7F, so you may want to stick around. Some council members may have questions for you, perhaps. Having said that, let's move into item 7, discussion action items, and the first item up is our audit contract renewal, and Finance Director Dozier.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. So this past fiscal year audit was year 3 of a 3-year contract with Gould Killian, who we've been with for a number of years now for our audit. Tonight we're asking for your approval to negotiate another 3-year contract with them rather than send out an RFP, a request for a proposal. Town manager and I both believe that it's in the town's best interest to do this for several reasons, most of which are listed on page 64 in your agenda packet. We've been hearing for years that the pool of auditors that are doing governmental audits is shrinking. So the demand is there and the supply is shrinking. Last week I was at a roundtable luncheon for finance officers in the area and actually heard it referred to as an auditor crisis. And the recommendations are if you have a good auditor, you want to hold on to them. More audits are being filed late with the LGC. People are just missing that October 31 deadline because of the auditor problem. The LGC has implemented new, more severe consequences for being late with your audit. For us, we need to keep in mind that with the $15 million we've secured in grant funds, we're going to have what's called a single audit. It's kind of a supplemental small audit just for those funds. If you spend more than $750,000 in 1 year of governmental funds, you're required to have the single audit in addition to your full audit. So that makes us having a good auditor, even more important. And negotiating with them rather than sending out an RFP, they have told us will save money for the town, because if we send out an RFP, there's a lot of work that goes into that. They'll have to give us the market price, which they've said will be higher than if we negotiate a new contract with them. And then finally, there's no single best practice for either keeping the same auditor year after year or turning it over, mixing it up. There's pros and cons to each. And what Gould Killian has done, the time we've been with them, every couple years they're mixing up the audit team. We've had the same lead auditor. The the team changes, so you are getting some fresh blood, some, fresh set of eyes. And because they know us and know how we operate, they know our accounting system, they've examined our internal controls year after year, it frees them up to focus on something more in-depth each year. So a couple of years ago, they really drilled into credit card purchases, for the employee credit card purchases. Last year, I think it was payroll. So every year, they're able to kind of dig in a little deeper on one issue. So we're asking you tonight for approval to negotiate another 3-year contract with them.
What questions do y'all have for the finance director? How many years have we been with Killian Gold?
At least the 7 that I've been here, and I believe it was a few years before that. I think we had them, went to someone else, came back to them, but it's been a number of years.
And we did, at the beginning of the current 3-year contract with them, we did issue an RFP, and we got a couple of responses.
We did
chose
6
them
years
anyway.
ago. 3 years ago was the middle of COVID, and the market was even worse. 6 years ago, 2018, we sent out an RFP. Besides Gould Killian, we got 2 other responses. One was a very incomplete packet. They barely sent in what we'd requested, so they just did not even get considered. The other one was a higher price, and the firm did not have good peer reviews when we looked into it. So we ended up staying with Gould Killian, and I think that would happen again if we were to send out an RFP. I think we'll end up staying with them, but we'll end up paying more money.
And how many years have we had the same lead auditor?
At least 8 years.
So the Sarbanes-Oxley Act certainly recommends that you change up at least your lead auditor, if not auditing firms, because obviously if the person's been seeing you and working with you for 8 years, they've got their blinders on, you've got your blinders on. What would be the potential for us asking for a different lead auditor if we approve this contract?
We could certainly ask.
Any other questions? Is there a motion regarding the audit contract renewal?
I'll make a motion that we continue with Killian.
And I'd like to amend that by saying that we continue with Gould Killian, but with request that they change lead auditors this year. Would that be agreement?
Is that okay, Councilmember Jackson?
That's fine.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
May I ask the question, what is your direction, should they say, we don't have the staffing?
Then I think we're in a bind. We'll have to go with it. Hopefully, they can at least change up the team somewhat, so you have different people taking a look at our folks as opposed to the same team we had last year. Do your best.
Okay.
Next item up is item B, annexation petition for 75 Cole Road. And Attorney Jackson, can you remind us of where this project is at?
Yes, sir. You do have a map in your packet, and I'm going to ask Mr. Eller to get that pulled up. It is on page. Page 71, perhaps.
71. It's 71.
71. So this is about 22 acres in the north area from Weaverville. It is close to contiguous, but not contiguous. It's just a little bit shy. This is property that is west of I-26. And the exciting thing about this, should you wish to pursue this, is that the project that is contemplated on this will require an MSD sewer line. And so this will be the first opportunity for a developer to, as we say, punch through under I-26 and get sewer to the west of I-26. This is early. This is your first action on this petition. What we normally ask you to do at this point, if it's something that you want to consider, is to a motion to adopt the resolution that's in your packet that does 2 things. It first of all directs your town clerk to investigate the sufficiency of the petition. Just as a reminder of what that does, what that's asking her to do is it's making sure that all of the owners of this property have properly signed the petition to make it a true voluntary annexation. And then also, because it is a satellite annexation, making sure that it qualifies as a satellite for your consideration. So they have submitted a water application that I believe is scheduled to be, you were to consider that at your next meeting. Mr. Pennell wasn't quite ready with his recommendation for tonight, and so that will be coming to you next month. But what that water application is telling us is that 220 residential units in a multi-family apartment type configuration, those are proposed for this property. They are requesting an initial zoning designation of R12 to support that apartment complex. So again, we're very early on in the process, and so you're asking the clerk to investigate the sufficiency, and then also asking the planning board to take a look and give a recommendation on the proposed R12 zone.
Thank you. What questions, comments do people have regarding this project?
I have a question regarding the sewage line. I've always been under the impression that it would be quite difficult or hard to get the MSD to punch underneath the roof state. Would the petitioner for the annexation pursue that? Does anyone know how that goes from here?
It's my understanding, and the applicant's engineer is here in the room with us. He may want to offer, or he can correct me if I say anything wrong, but it is my understanding that the developer has been working with them on that. That the developer has to have a sewer connection for this project to work. And so, obviously, if they've got this forward to you at this point, I think that's some good indication that the applicant at least feels confident that they can get that accomplished.
Well, it certainly offer opportunities for the town being on the other side.
Yes, it would, and you'll recall at our last meeting, Doug Dirt, their representative from MSD, did indicate that MSD is looking to double their pumping capacity in Weaverville, and obviously is looking for development north of the city.
So what is the nearest contiguous? I drove there today, and I don't see anything that looks familiar to me that would be the red of the town.
Orange. That's town limits, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the orange is town limits.
So I'm curious about considering it contiguous or not. So basically, all that's separating town from that is the interstate.
So the interstate itself won't disqualify you from contiguous, but there looks to be just a little bit of a gap. If you drew the lines parallel, it looks like there is potentially just a little bit of a gap. We can look at it more closely. The engineer probably has some surveys that they can share with us that might be a little bit better than the GIS information that we've got. It's close. It's very close.
Very close, yeah. Any other questions or comments regarding this project? Okay, so what we're being asked to tonight is to forward this to the town clerk to judge the sufficiency of the application, and then on to the planning board.
And all of that can be done with the adoption of the proposed resolution.
So is there any motion with regard to this resolution?
May we adopt the resolution?
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Next item up is 7C, the resolution supporting the county passive recreation lands grant application. Again, Attorney Jackson, you're up.
Yes, thank you. So, as Town Manager Coffey mentioned a little bit earlier in her manager's report, Elevated Trail Design has completed its work on the Eller Cove watershed trail system, but I think it was smart to try to hold that so that you can get all of their studies at the same time. And so I do anticipate that you're going to be getting some information, a good presentation from those folks in the next month or so. But in the meantime, Mark Indries, who is in the audience, he actually has encouraged staff to take a look at some potential open space bond monies that the county has. And so Manager Coffey and the staff has, since you have encouraged grant opportunities where they might be available, we would like to get some authority from you and some support for an application for what they call passive recreation lands. Is one of the categories, one of the components of the open space bond money. And so they've got a grant cycle that is currently open with an application deadline of end of March. Theoretically, before you hear from Elevated Trail Design. And so we would like the authority to at least apply for some grant money. You can always, I think I made a note in this cover sheet that doesn't take away your right to say, no, we don't want to pursue this project. It doesn't take away your right to withdraw the grant application or to decline the funds should they be awarded. So this just theoretically puts an option on your table that you may not have if you don't take this step.
If I may add, one of the things that we've discussed a number of times over the last couple of years in talking about the Ellicott Cove watershed is there was a good bit of conversation and kind of some assurance that we could get a lot of the work done by volunteers. That is not the case with the final report. And I'll tell you, it's not insubstantial in the amount. So I would encourage town council to support staff in going forward to apply for some funding through the county's program.
Any questions or comments regarding this item? Is there, I guess actually all you really need here is you need a vote or not?
A motion to adopt the resolution that's included in your packet.
Is there a motion to adopt the resolution to apply for funding from the passive restoration grants? Yes, sir. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Item 7D, water line easement approval for Lakeway Circle. Public Works Director Pennell.
Good evening to you all. The item that I'm bringing to you for a water line easement approval was kindly mentioned by Mr. Phillips a second ago, and I appreciate his kind words. We've been working with the engineers and developers for the 480 Reems Creek Townhouse projects for 4 months, maybe more, regarding the need to connect their proposed water system that comes from Reems Creek and circulates through their development with our existing water system, which is on Lakeway Circle near the main irrigation lake for the golf course up at Reems Creek. What we wanted to do was be able to let the developer connect to our main water line in Reems Creek Road, as well as connect to our water line that's in the Lakeway Circle right-of-way. And what that did was allow the water to be able to circulate through their water system, and all the water lines within Reems Creek community circulate just as well. However, there's a valved connection between the two. So if a water line main broke on either side of this little connecting line, then we've got the ability to valve off the break and go open that valve and be able to pass water both ways through that interconnecting line in order to protect the residents from both that area of the golf course community as well as the new townhouse project, so they're not only kept in drinking water, but they're also kept with fire protection. And after those negotiations that went back and forth between the town and the developer and the various entities at the golf course, we've come to the point that it's on their engineering plans that are in Raleigh being reviewed. We've got the okay by the homeowners association to grant the easement, and we're certainly in favor of it as far as the town hall and the public works department. The easement itself is 20 feet wide by 2 feet long. It's just a very simple little set of tract of property that is what we need this easement approved for. The only cost to the town is going to be for whatever legal expenses the homeowners association incurs by having their attorney to review the document itself. The expense for the water line and for both the installation and testing will be borne by the developer. So it's as Mr. Phillips put it, and I think we've discussed, it's a win-win for both parties at a very low cost, but it certainly fits in with our idea of the redundancy of our water system anywhere we can make that happen. So what we're asking for is your approval of the proposed easement, subject to whatever minor little changes there might be.
Make a motion.
So there's a motion to approve the proposed easement. Is there any discussion or questions for the Public Works Director?
There's no cost. It's just a request for easement.
Just the Reeves Creek Homeowners Association has asked that the town pick up any legal expenses in their attorney to review it. And that's underway, and I don't expect that to be very much.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you, Dale. Don't go anywhere though, because next item up is E is a paving contract change order regarding ADA sidewalk ramps. And again, Director Pennell.
Thank you again. As you know, we're in the middle of working on our current paving program for fiscal year 23-24. That's a $1.4 million contract with French Broad Paving out of a fund of $1.8 million that we have that represents about 3 years of accumulation of budgeted funds and the POW bill funds. The contract started in August. Before cold weather came, they were able to do some concrete repairs on various streets and pave 2 of the streets. And then the cold weather came, and we're waiting till probably late March or early April for them to continue with paving. However, in the meantime, is that my timer? However, in the meantime, since November, when they stopped paving, we've asked them to continue with working on a variety of projects that relate to our ADA transition plan that was done some years ago. And the primary focus of what we're working on that would allow their concrete construction branch of their contract to be able to continue on through the winter months. And what they're doing is repairing handicap ramps along driveways and along streets that did not meet ADA requirements for either the slope or the width of those handicap ramps. And thus far, they've finished, I think it's closing in on 18 of those. And we've got another 23 driveways with that adds up to 46 different ramps down on Highland Street. And we've negotiated with them using the same prices that were in their original contract to be able to do these additional driveways. But now that we've begun that work and are seeing such good success with it, we wanted to come to you with a change order described on page 70, page 80, 82, 83. And it represents, on Lakeshore Drive, 16 total driveway replacements with the ramps on either side. 4 handicap ramps that stand alone, 46 sidewalk ramps on Highland Street, and another 4 on Church Street between College and, between Ridgeway and Highland Street. And the total amount of that change order would be $123,500. And again, we have those funds available in the balance of our paving funds currently in our budget. So what we're asking for tonight is your action to approve that change order and keep making those ADA improvements for our citizens.
Are there any questions of the Public Works Director? If not, is there a motion to approve the change order?
I'll make a motion to approve the change order.
Any discussion?
One item of discussion, just, I'm reading through the contract time. The contract time prior to the change order is 90, and the contract time incorporating the change order is also 90. Would that not be 150? I just saw, is that a scrivener's error?
You're exactly right. That was a test.
Good catch, Mr. Moore.
Okay.
Thank
so
you.
Maybe so moved with that amendment.
And who made the motion?
Michelle?
Michelle, you go with that amendment?
Yes.
Okay, good. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much for both of those.
Next time is 7F is the citizen requested code amendments, initial consideration, and this is regarding the request from Weaver House and the golf carts allowance at New Creek Golf Club. What questions do you all have regarding, we'll start with the Weaver House request. What questions or comments do you all have regarding their requests?
I think the concerts in downtown Asheville have to end at 10 o'clock too. And they're very strict on that. They fine them if they go past that.
I think even the Highland Brewery, they stop at 10. So.
I know Rabbit it stops at 10.
That's what
And Salvage Station.
I'm unaware of the history of a purported change from 11 to 10. I honestly don't have any information. Was it at 11 o'clock?
Can you help us with the history? Do you remember?
I don't remember that.
You know, I don't remember the exact details, but we did in developing a noise ordinance, which was I think last year.
February 2022.
2 years ago, pretty close. So I don't remember
I have
exactly
that
the
ordinance.
but we did develop a noise ordinance. Remember what was prior to that? Apparently no one else does either.
I don't think it was a
I don't
problem
think we had
until
a
we
time.
developed it, probably.
Just in non-specific.
I think so.
I'm not saying that we had a
I
cutoff
think it-
time before.
I think it was just something generic prior to that.
I think that's right.
It wasn't times up prior to that.
Okay, no time zone, okay.
Have there been any measurements of what the sound pressure levels are?
We decided not to do decibels at the time.
We went away from using a decibel system or measuring like that because there are a number of factors that influence that. So, for instance, vegetative buffers, wind, atmospheric pressure, all those things. We did not go with a meter per se. And also with just some background from other jurisdictions, between the chief and I, in places we've developed the same type of ordinance and dealt with noise issues, and then reaching out to other jurisdictions. We felt we were okay to move forward the way that we did.
Doesn't the current ordinance say something to the effect of, if you can be heard on outside of your property, then it's too loud?
So what this is, what they're really asking for is that their amplified sound the music that is using amps, after 10. And so right now, if there's any amplified noise that can be heard off of the property after 10 o'clock, that is a violation. And so they have, they have been, very, they left, okay. So, they have, been, I'll go out and say very compliant over this last year. We have not had the number of complaints that we've had and the excess, the sound, the music after 10 o'clock over the last year. So, there's not a specific distance or anything except that if amplified sound is coming out of that property after 10, it is a violation.
I think, I think we need to be consistent. In other words, if we make an exception for one, then somebody else may ask for another one. And I think whatever the standard is, it should apply to everyone.
I'd like to just point out something in a letter that we got, so everybody on council read it, but not everybody has heard this. And this is from Elizabeth Swan, who owns the property at 19 Alabama Avenue. It's a rental. She doesn't live there. She wasn't able to be here this evening because she's home taking care of her mother. And she asked actually that somebody read this or just bring out a couple of points. Is it okay if I do that in her place? One of the things she says here, I am not sure that you are aware, but even though it is requested that the amplified noise stop at 10, there is still noise from the excited people shouting, cars leaving, trucks moving, doors slamming, equipment being loaded for at least 2 hours past the 10 p.m. deadline. So it's not the amplified noise, but it's still the noise. Alabama is a residential street. There are several young families, many young children living there. And 10 o'clock, is late for anybody. She also says that during the pandemic, Weaver House started having very loud amplified music outside. This was what brought all of this on back in February of 22. The music was so loud that when I was working in my house, I couldn't talk with the handyman standing beside me about some work she wanted done in the house because of the noise in the house with the windows and the doors closed. That was the amplified sound she's talking about. And Elizabeth Swan and her tenant would prefer not to go back to that amplified noise any later than 10 o'clock. Sooner would be better.
Is it safe to assume that the discussions that happened in February of 22 that led to the 10 o'clock specified time, was the impetus was the Weaver House? Because that's what it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It was just the Weaver House.
If I may just add one more issue or item, part to this, is that I did request a specific number from Mr. Patton.
Number of events?
Yes, and did not receive a response. And although he said a limited number, this is for an unspecified amount, a number. And I would hope that if town council does want to direct staff to make some changes to the noise ordinance, that you give us some direction as to the number.
I would just like to also remind us that when this came up 2 years ago, the vote in favor of the 10 o'clock of the noise ordinance passed 7-0. So it was unanimous. 7-0, it was unanimous. And 5 of us are still here.
Then I would be inclined to say, unless Asheville has changed theirs, I don't think we should change ours either.
I'd like just to say that just because this is on your agenda tonight, doesn't mean that staff is advocating. We just wanted to get this in front of you because it was a citizen's request.
In fact, no action needs to be taken if that's the will of council.
We need, I would amend that just slightly to say staff would like direction on whether you want us to pursue this or to let it go, to not.
Let it go?
So nods, everybody okay? I'm sensing everyone's okay with the noise ordinance as we have it currently written.
So for the minutes, consensus to not pursue any changes to the noise ordinance at this time.
Correct.
Correct, thank Now on to the item of golf carts at Reeves Creek.
Well, that one, I understand.
Yeah.
However, I would say, you know, with safety, you know, you'd want to do some research on other golf communities. Like Hilton Head's a perfect example, because they ride around the golf course all the time. And they don't do them before a certain time, like before the sun comes up or after the sun goes down. And I think they even have to have a tag and a flashing light or those kind of things. But I would like to possibly see staff investigate what other golf communities do. And then we say this is special for them, because we don't want everybody riding around on Main Street with a golf cart either.
Exactly.
Thank you.
In fact,
Clarify.
maybe you also describe some of the specifics here. I believe it's on specific roads. They would be allowed, and maybe you can help us out there.
Well, she's turning to it. There are a number of streets, and we have met with the folks at the golf community, and I believe we came to some good conclusions in our meeting with them. And we do have a substantial list here of, now granted, some of these are short streets. They're not, it's not significant in the way of mileage. And I would agree with you, Vice Mayor Cordell, that we're not, if we made a recommendation, staff would recommend that it be for the golf community only.
So there were about 17 or 18 streets in that Reeves Creek Golf Community area that have been identified by both the golf course folks and also by our police department that could potentially be impacted. I think it is absolutely fair to limit it to a golf course community, just so that we don't. It would be a safe. I think Chief would say that it would be a big safety issue if we had golf cart traffic on Main Street, for instance. So I think this is pretty limited to their community. There is the authority to enact a golf cart ordinance like this came as recently as 2009. And the state has some model ordinances to consider. They're going to have the same safety type things that you're probably thinking in your head. There are some requirements. Can't be any younger than 16, so you have to have a driver's license to actually operate the golf cart. It's got to have the working safety features on it, meaning your rear view, which is pretty limited, your rear view mirror and things like that. It cannot go on any road that has a speed limit greater than 35. My guess is all the roads out there are 35 or less anyway. But I do think that this ordinance should town council wish for staff to sort of move forward with it, would be greatly appreciated out in that community. And will certainly be a challenge to your staff, your police, your patrol officers will have to change how they're handling those type of things. But I think they're certainly willing to do that should council wish to pursue this.
What precipitated this?
It was a request from the folks in the golf course community. I keep wanting to say golf cart course, the community.
Is there a state model ordinance that you might recommend that we could?
Yes. If the direction is, and just because you give direction tonight to, go get us a draft ordinance for us to look at, that doesn't mean that you're bound to adopt it. We didn't want to get too far out ahead of this and spend time developing a proposed ordinance if y'all were just absolutely not interested in it. And so I would certainly, if you give the green light on this, Selena and I will work together with the police department and the HOA folks. It's not really the HOA folks, the golf course community, come up with something that we think is reasonable and responsive to their request and bring it back to you. But my suggestion will be that it will start with that model ordinance.
This is not an unusual request for a golf community.
No.
I mean, this happens all the time, where they drive their carts to get from their garage to the, yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, and this is bit of a stretch if they were to operate legally. And I don't know, there are 15, 20 golf carts in that community right now, privately owned golf carts. If they were to be legal in getting to the golf cart, they're gonna put the golf cart on a trailer, drive the trailer to the parking lot where the clubhouse is, pull it off the trailer, do their golf round, and then reverse that. And so that seems a little, put in that context, it seems a little cumbersome.
Onerous.
It does. But again, there are safety issues that we need to be mindful of in this process too.
If there are places in Greens Creek Golf Community that downhill you will exceed 35 miles an hour.
Right.
It's because you burn the brakes out of those things. So, yeah, there's some issues. You get hit in the head with a golf ball.
You don't have to be in a golf cart to get hit in the head with a
that's
golf
true.
ball.
Your odds go up.
Just have to let me play.
So is it the will of council that we should direct staff to develop an ordinance on this?
Yes.
Yes.
Nods?
Yes.
Yes.
Everybody good?
So I can note consensus for us to bring back a proposed ordinance for you.
Boys Golf Course Community owned.
Yes.
Yes.
Can I ask one more question for John? John, do you feel like the homeowners association wants this? I mean, because there's what, 300 homes and 15 golf carts?
There's
are
about
privately owned?
180 homes, and there's probably 15 or 20 golf carts. I believe Chief Davis put the sign up because there was a complaint from somebody. I'm not real sure if it was even a resident in our community. But I think there was a reason for the complaint after we had a sit-down meeting. On Halloween night, somebody allowed their young children, I don't know how young, but to drive around to do their trick-or-treating. And that was at dark, most likely, or very close to dark. That's one of the things that we would not want to have the ordinance allow. Second thing that Jennifer mentioned was the age requirements, being licensed. The majority of traffic in the community is people going to the clubhouse to play golf and back to their house. Occasionally, there's a golf tournament that will be a shotgun start, and people may leave the clubhouse and drive on the streets to go to their tee that they're starting rather than go on the golf course. It's just a shorter route, depending on which hole you're starting on. I just lost my thought there. The other thing that we talked about was if we wanted to enforce absolutely no golf carts on the streets, it would create a hazardous situation for the golfers who live in the community to get on the golf course and take their carts along the cart path while people are playing golf. In many holes, you're traveling the wrong way. You wouldn't, the people that are teeing off wouldn't see you coming. You wouldn't see the ball coming. So it creates a lot of hazards to try to enforce it in a very strict manner. I think the number of occasions, the number of people that are on the streets are very limited. We have put the word out in our community that underage drivers should not be, allowed. I think if we had an ordinance and advertised that ordinance that reinforced that, that would just go further to help.
If we were to come up with an ordinance, if we did do this and vote that in, could you make it part of your homeowners association plan too? Then that way everyone would have to have read it when they buy their house there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we could definitely do that. We make a real effort to do that now with just our CNRs to make sure that every new homeowner gets that. We definitely could.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Next item up is item G, the tree board, and the coffee.
Yes, sir. So some of you have only recently learned this, that you are, town council serves as the tree board. So this was a change that was made in March of 2018. when the Conservation Board became inactive. And so in order to apply for the Tree City award, the town needs the tree board, at least the tree board, whether it's a conservation board or a tree board, we at least need a tree board. And so this has been an issue that we've wanted, at the staff level, wanted to bring up a number of times just to make sure that town council still felt the way that they did back in 2018. But I think it would be important for you to have some discussion and give us some direction with regard to the appointment of a tree board. And I think this is probably a good time to go ahead and appoint a tree board. Again, whether you call it the Conservation Board or however you want to proceed with that, because it does have a substantial impact. The board makeup and itself has a substantial impact on what the town does with regard to trees and you know, the preservation of trees on, and let me say, on town property. The town, nor its tree board, has any authority whatsoever over private property. And so that is really important for us to remember, and that's underlined there about mid-page in italics as well. So we at the staff level have been looking at options, looking at what other jurisdictions are doing, and wanted to bring this to you for your discussion. Also, remember the impact that the tree board has on the comprehensive land use plan and the elements of it. So we're asking for direction. My recommendation would be that you establish a tree board again, and that you begin an appointment process for that. And that their first task would be a comprehensive review of Chapter 32 in the code, and other tree-related regulations within town and the comprehensive land use plan. So I would like to recommend that you move forward with appointing the tree board again, but certainly open to whatever you would like to do as council.
What are your thoughts, council?
One of the things that we've talked about that we have put off until our budget workshops is some discussion about an urban planner type role. I see a tree board possibly in an urban, if we were to bring on an urban planner, how they could work together.
I can see an urban planner being staffed to that tree board.
Yep, yep, there you go. So, a twofer?
So, could we send, I think, yes, this is a great idea. And, remember when we talked in the Saturday about a word that, describes who you are? If we could send out a flash on the eFocus or something and request for volunteers who have possible backgrounds in horticulture, agriculture, landscaping, or volunteers for the tree board. That way they would know what they were volunteering for. But of this, 5,000 and something people that we have here, I'm quite sure there's more than 5 that have that kind of background.
I know of
Absolutely.
3 who have already asked.
And I will say that town council can adjust that number. I am of the belief that smaller numbers for committee work is better. You don't want
Absolutely.
too much of a large, but certainly 7 would be another good option. Again, always staying with odd numbers for the committee, but 5 to 7, maybe even 9. But you're right. I think there are a number of people in the community that would be interested in this type of.
And it says here it can be a combination of residents and non-residents.
Could be.
2 of the names that I have are people who are very much involved in this, and they live in Mars Hill, who have some interest.
I mean, my brother's not gonna be interested because he lives in Burnsville, but he has a master's in agriculture, so this is right down his alley for over in his town.
We have a number of
Retired,
master
he
gardeners
needs
in
something
town.
to do.
So I'm hearing this, council's will to reestablish the tree board.
Yes.
And that it not be us.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I would encourage you all also to reach out to people you know who would meet the proper requisites to be on the tree board and to make those recommendations to the town manager. I think we should.
We've
yeah.
already decided on that,
That's
right?
the first item.
But yeah.
Okay, very good.
Staff will come back to you with some amendments to get that started. There will be just a little bit of code amendment work that needs to be done on that, but we'll get to work.
Next up is item H, is rules of procedure changes regarding meeting cancellations.
I think that's me, just to sort of kick off the conversation. I've heard from several town council members that have requested some group discussion about meeting cancellations and what are some parameters that you might want to put in place to govern yourselves in the cancellation of town council meetings. Again, this is largely for y'all to sort of talk about the topic. Just to give you a starting point, I took a stab at it. And again, it would be things that you would normally, I think normally have some pretty good consensus on, like if there's not a quorum, if there are facility issues or weather issues that would affect the safety of conducting meetings, those type of things. So the proper place, I think, to put some sort of some parameters is in your rules of procedure, which y'all visited back in December, actually. So this is not this should be a relatively familiar document to everybody. But I'm gonna be quiet and let y'all talk and see where you want to land on this.
What are the thoughts of council members?
I think we've been following the ones that show all along. That's how we call over the years. Just a matter of putting it in words, but we're doing exactly what was proposed to.
I think the change on here, and I think the concern that came up, and I'm one of the people on council that asked for this, is we've had a number of workshops canceled, a lot of workshops canceled. 6 of the last 9 workshops have been canceled. And we have things to talk about. So, a number of us are frustrated that we're not having those workshops and having an opportunity for open discussion like we had Saturday. Saturday was so good. I can't remember the last time we've had a workshop where we had a real discussion about things. And those are my thoughts. And I think it's unfortunate when those are canceled, because we do have a lot of things we can bring up and talk about.
I think the language and the amendments are good. I like them.
Anyone else? Is there a motion to accept the amendment changes, the extra sections in yellow?
I'll make that motion.
Just to be clear, what we're adding in the sections in yellow, we're leaving, the stuff about weather, about billing doesn't work, about emergencies and that. We're just adding
Yes.
that.
The yellow
The second
section,
one.
which is Rule 9, subsection C, and Rule 10, subsection E, that's all brand-new language.
Okay. So what this says is, if the town clerk has information indicating that a majority of the governing body agrees with the cancellation of a regularly scheduled workshop, then we can cancel a workshop if there's a majority. Okay. Do we also have a rule that, or an ordinance or something, a regulation, that a special meeting can anytime be called by 2 council members?
Yeah. Well,
It's in here.
That's in the statute,
Okay,
and is also reflected in your rules.
okay.
and I didn't know until I read this that I could call them.
Yes, so special called meetings can be called by the mayor, they can be called by the vice mayor, or they can be called by any 2 town council members. They do have to be properly noticed, which is a minimum of 48 hours in advance of the meeting, and that special called meeting has to have a stated purpose. You can't just say, we're gonna meet and just talk about stuff. It's got to be a specific purpose for it, and that's gotta be reflected in the notice, but yes.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? None, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Now we're moving, what was the consent agenda item E, annexation and zoning for 9 Pleasant Grove. To set a public hearing for that. And just to make sure everyone knows where we're at on this project, Attorney, could you give us a history and tell us where we're at? Or James? Whomever.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Specific to 9 Pleasant Grove Road, which is the one we're on, if I remember correctly. Pardon me if I get confused with two properties directly across the road from one another. But yes, we are on 9 Pleasant Grove Road, going back to October of '22, if I remember correctly. Town Council granted a water allocation for the project. At that point, the applicant went forward to Buncombe County and achieved development approval through the county for this project. So this annexation petition does declare vested rights on that project that has already been approved by the county. The water allocation expired when they came back to Town Council to re-up the allocation. The condition was made at that point for a voluntary annexation petition to be filed with the town, and here we are.
So it's my understanding that there has been some concern about this area having some floodplain implications, and so I just wanted to address that in case that's a question that some of you have. There is a portion of this property that is lying in the floodplain of Reems Creek, which means that the developer had to obtain a floodplain permit from the county, from Buncombe County, in order to go forward with their development. So this is a county approved vested rights project, and they have secured the floodplain permit to allow their development as they have it approved to be built within this area. And as a matter of fact, I think they're under construction. They're moving dirt.
Yes.
So.
So this conversation might be too late then.
Yes.
Again, the town of Weaverville has historically relied on Buncombe County and their floodplain protection, flood prevention protection regulations. As a matter of fact, you have essentially adopted a corollary to their county regulations. If you wanted to do anything different above and beyond what the county does, then that can be done. You can put in place stricter flood protection measures, but then you lose the county's permitting of that. Then that has to be permitted within the town. So
If I
right
may
now,
sort
this
of
one,
bridge the gap between 6 and 9 Pleasant Grove, while 9 Pleasant Grove has the vested rights, 6 does not. But as Attorney Jackson was just stating, Buncombe County administers the floodplain ordinance within both unincorporated Buncombe County and the town of Weaverville. And so the annexation of these properties under current condition will have no effect on the floodplain regulations that are applicable on both properties.
and I would even say that extends to not just the annexation, but also the zoning. You're gonna be asked to zone the property.
Right.
And if the zoning says you can get, do certain development that would not be allowed in the floodplain, the flood prevention, ordinance, that the stricter of those is gonna apply. So there will be more, they will be limited by the floodplain.
So I'm gonna say some things that, I'm gonna talk out like Andrew used to. I'm gonna brainstorm out loud. We get accused of saying that everything's okay. And then once it gets built and it's really ugly, then we get blamed. So one of the things that happens is, John brought this to my attention today. So when you look at the blue, as in, that means that part of that development's in a floodplain. So, okay, there's rules that says if they're in a floodplain, they have to build 2 feet up, right, John?
Main level, 2 feet above base flood elevation.
okay, 2 feet above the 100-year floodplain elevation. And then, so it made me think about the flooding that we had about 15 years ago in the Biltmore, and then they had to rebuild everything up because Biltmore got completely flooded. It made me think about the River Arts District and how that New Belgium is built on pylons about 20 feet above the French Broad River. Am I right on that? Something like that?
Maybe, but they have other issues.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then the little thing in Woodfin, the Lazy Hiker or whatever, it's built up on stilts. So I was thinking about all these things. So I know Buncombe County says this is what you have to do. Now, okay, so now they're gonna build in a floodplain, they're gonna have to build it so far up, then they're gonna put a wall, and then they might put stilts, and then people are gonna go, oh my God, how ugly that is, and this is what you approved. So just so you know, if we know all that up front, that this is what's gonna happen.
So the vested rights, we're talking, what the plan that I think you have is for 9 Pleasant Grove Road. And so this was issued as a special use permit, and again, I'm looking back to the back, and if I get off track, you're gonna let me know. So that it was issued by a Board of Adjustment through a quasi-judicial proceeding. They are allowed and should be looking at what it looks like, how it's gonna operate, all of those things. So I'm sure there was a full hearing with lots of folks that had notice of that, and those things should be reflected in the actual order that allow the special use permit. So I don't think that the vested right is to build that specific project. They can't, if they have a modification to that, they've got to go, right now, they would go back to Buncombe County Board of Adjustment for an amendment to their special use permit. If this project is brought into the town, then it would go to the town's Board of Adjustment for any amendment to it. So in a lot of cases, you do not know what things are going to look like. In this particular case, you do. And there can be some, again, this is just to set the public hearing, and I think I probably erred in putting the agenda package together, because I was trying to abbreviate it so I didn't inundate you with 40 pages worth of stuff just to set the public hearing tonight. We will absolutely, if you decide to go forward and set the public hearing on this, then we will make sure that your package is very full of all of that information.
So the action we're taking tonight is only to set the public hearing for March 25.
That's right.
For both of these.
For both. In
Yes.
fact, can we combine these two into one discussion? Let's do them separate.
Let's do them separate.
Let's do them separate.
And again, in this particular case, you kind of know what the product is. You know what you're going to get because they have properly claimed vested rights to proceed in accordance with the permits and approvals that they've already received.
So I have some thoughts, and I know it's all within their rights, all within county. Does Weaverville really want to take on something that encourages this type of density in the floodplain? It's more than 50% of the properties affected by it. I just have reservations about encouraging this type of development because I don't think it's good practice.
So that is so you have a water allocation that is conditioned upon annexation. You said, again, this is going back to Councilmember Nagel's sort of adamant stance that let's not give water unless you're going to come into the town. And so you did add that condition when this project renewed. I don't think that if you wanted to relieve them of that condition and say, yes, you get the water, but we're going to leave you out, that certainly is something that you can consider doing if that's kind of where you were headed with that. This development is likely to it's likely to go, whether you want it in town or want to leave it out of town.
And how many other properties are there that want to be annexed that are on Reams Creek? I mean, all up and down there, the creek is there.
I'm a little confused because
some of the documentation here says single-family residential with 40 townhomes, and then the next line says 80 is the number of units.
There was some confusion when the annexation petition came in. It is 40 townhouse units on this particular property. And we looked back at, that's what was permitted by Buncombe County. There was some question about whether there were single-family lots that were also going to be available on this property, but those have not been permitted by Buncombe County that I could find. If they wanted to come back forward, bring a new application forward for further subdividing the property, that would go through the town's ordinances.
This petition then should be corrected.
Page 26.
That's the data sheet.
Page 26.
Page 26 says 40 townhomes, and then it says 80 units.
But the, well, we'll do it later. Number 6 is different.
So I assume they're duplexes, probably.
Townhouses, yeah.
Yeah, the little bit of research that I was able to do on this indicates there's requirements from the state for building in a floodplain. And more than anything else, from what I could gather, it seemed to be aimed at setting what the insurance rates were going to be. So I don't really know what the impact of that is other than good standard building practices for building in that type of area. But I don't think that there's a big regulation against it if you meet the standards.
I asked a question, Dale. In this, when you've looked at this?
I haven't seen the drawing.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just wondering like about where the water, our water would come into them. Let's say hypothetically, the worst thing on earth happens and there is 100-year flood and it comes this high and it could damage the water lines and break in two. Would there be ways to shut that off and still supply water across the street, you know?
The water line follows exactly the road alignment that's shown on your drawing. And that water line is duct line pipe buried 3 feet in the ground with concrete anchors at any bends or fittings. So except for the hydrants that are exposed, there's nothing else that could be damaged by floodwaters. And I would venture to say, and maybe Judge Lippert from CDC could address it, but I'd be willing to say that both where the houses are that are in blue and where the road is in blue may very well be elevated above the flood elevation as the houses would be. Maybe Mr. Sugg might be able to address that.
Mr. Sugg, can you ask that question?
Warren Sugg with Civil Design Concepts. The question was, is there a road and lines elevated? Can I have the map?
Bill, can you reiterate the question?
The question we're asking, Warren, is what was done in the design of the grading for the development that is reflective of the 100-year flood elevation? Right, so the roads would have to be, relatively speaking, same elevation as those driveways. Those driveways go to those units. Those units have to be at least 2 feet above base flood elevation. This doesn't have a grading plan on here. I failed to bring a whole grading plan with me. So I don't want to say it's exact same elevation as those units, but it is in very close proximity. And as to Dale's concern or thought, yeah, the water line is below ground. It's never say never, but it would take quite an event to get that water line out of the ground.
Do we know what the base flood elevation is off? By chance, do you know what the base flood elevation is?
Yeah, there's a line on here. You see, we went on here. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, but is there actual elevation data?
Yeah, there's base flood elevation on NC flood maps. I don't have it memorized off the top of my head, but what you see in the squigglies represent those. In fact, you'll see the dashed black with a little square. Those have the base flood elevation information in them.
Okay.
And if you guys need, I know we're setting the public hearing. If you need me to bring additional information when we have the public hearing, if you'll give me that list, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Any more discussion on this item? Is there a motion to set the public hearing?
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Thank you. Motion, public hearing is set for March 25th. And Mr. Suggett probably be wise to bring your maps and documents for that time meeting. Next. Thank you. Next item up was consent agenda item F regarding 6 Pleasant Grove Road, setting a public hearing also for March 25th. That item is now open for discussion. What questions do council have regarding, well, let me back up. Attorney Jackson, could you give us a history of this project so everyone knows where we're at?
So this is right across the street, literally across the street from 9 Pleasant Grove. We do have a voluntary annexation petition. It's about just over 6 acres, and they're asking to be annexed into the town. And again, the purpose of this is to get water and other town services to support what we understand may be as many as 50 townhouse units. And we know that because that's what the water allocation that you approved last, I think you approved it last month on that.
I believe that's correct.
I think that's right. I'm looking at Dale and anyway, I'm pretty sure that you approved the water on this, subject to annexation. We now have the annexation petition. Same thing on here where, you've asked the clerk to certify the sufficiency. She has done that. The planning board took a look at the R3 zoning request and forwarded a favorable recommendation on that to you. And so we're really just asking you to set the public hearing for this one, just like you did for the 9 Pleasant Grove Road for March 25th at 6.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions regarding this project?
Same engineers on this, and so I'm sure that Mr. Sugg is paying attention to the conversation on 9 Pleasant Grove Road, and we'll carry that forward to 6 Pleasant Grove. This does not have vested rights, so any development on this, once it's annexed, any development approvals will come through and go be made in accordance with your development ordinances.
If there are no comments, is there a motion to set the public hearing for March 25th for this project?
We would set the hearing date.
Thank you. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. That gets us up to item I, which is our quarterly report from our police department. Chief Davis, this might be your last quarterly report.
Oh, no.
No? One more to go?
No. Well, last quarterly report,
Yeah.
not last meeting.
Good evening again. As we get into the quarterly report, this quarterly report I would probably describe best as it is in line with what we saw last year at this time. We're up slightly, as you can see, from 14 calls last year to 1,666. The numbers are up when we compared them to the August and October timeframe of 2023. Arrests, that's actually reversed. That should be 15 arrests this quarter and 31 the same period last year. So we're actually down with our arrests. Again, with the accidents, our accidents were at 42 collisions and 6 injuries this quarter and 54 versus 8 injuries in the last quarter. Again, I encourage people, trends are difficult to establish for a lot of reasons. So the quarterly report is a little bit of just a fraction of what we're seeing, but I see no trend that is going substantially up or down. The next page we have in our police activity report. I don't know what questions that you might have about this, but I'll point out that there was some concerns back in December. If you remember, Asheville was experiencing a rash of vandalisms in the hundreds. I'm thankful to say that we had one during that time period, and the ones that we have in the quarter, which is a total of 7, were related. Moving on to the response times, and I think I've said this a few times, that while these trends can vary with our high priority calls and our low priority calls, if you look at those numbers with those response times can vary a little bit. They can go up a little bit, they can go down a little bit, but they're about the same from quarter to quarter. The one that concerns me a little bit, and it keeps going up, is the average response time. So that average response time can vary for another number of reasons: weather conditions, time of day, time of night, how long an officer's on a call, how complicated the call is, things like that. That number is continuing to go up, and you could see in this quarter it went up by almost about 2 full minutes in that quarter. I don't see that trend changing either. We can go on to the next page with the other updates. As we were talking about just a little bit earlier, we have 6 Chargers that are in the back of the police department now, or in back of Town Hall, 4 town vehicles. As I alluded to earlier, we have 3 electric vehicles. Those 3 electric vehicles are up and running. Well, we have 2 that are up and running. We have 1 that's going to be upfitted here shortly, as soon as we get the parts and things like that for the upfitting. We did submit the paperwork to the Department of Environmental Quality, and we are waiting on the grant to reimburse us for those charging stations that are in the back. As you also know, we won the award from Land to Sky for clean fleet vehicles as well. We just recently hired an officer, and the officer, Mario Rodriguez, he's fluent in Spanish, and he is a highly qualified officer that we were able to pick off from a different agency. So I'm proud to say we have somebody who's bilingual here now, should that be needed. Also, we are taking applications. We are actively working on applications for the 3 new positions that were approved by council in January, or actually to start January. 2 of those we look to hire very shortly, and we should have them in place. And when I say that, we should have them hired. Getting them certified is a little bit different. The state is running, it's slow with the state application process, for lack of better terminology. But we're looking at a 3rd, and we hope to have them on sometime in the summer. Speaking of summer, we are also doing a transition to the new chief. Despite my best efforts and the town manager's best efforts to run her off screaming into the night with the stuff that we've inundated her in the last little bit, she's still here. Be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for the chief? No. Thank you for the job well done, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is the quarterly report from the fire department. Even though the agenda says Fire Chief Davis, I'm going to call him Fire Chief Harris instead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. A couple updates for our staff. This quarterly report, we've run 530 calls, with 204 of those being inside the town limits and 258 in our North Buncombe district. 68 of those were mutual aid provided, with an overlapping of just over 25%. That continues to go up, and that's a challenge in itself. Basically, that meaning another call comes in while one of our crews is on call. So the overlapping calls is just above 25% currently, with a response time averaging this past quarter of 6 minutes and 27 seconds. From our fire marshal standpoint, there was 13 child safety seat inspections. We do have on a regular basis members of the community coming by and wanting a child safety seat either checked or installed. A lot of them are bringing home newborns and things like that, wanting that safety mindset to happen before they bring the child home. As far as commercial occupancy inspections, we inspected approximately 70 this last quarter. And then community engagement. We continue to be involved in the community and working with other agencies, Weaverville Business Association, HOAs to go out and provide fire safety, whether it be anything from chimney fire inspection type safety features to come out as we approach wildfire season, working with the homeowners association to make them aware of fire safe communities, how to clean up leaves and different things in their property, as well as how the town can assist in providing the leaf removal if they put it in the right spot and not blocking the storm drains of that nature. So working with our HOA and being good stewards and partners in that aspect. For example, we have a community engagement tomorrow with one of our nursing facilities to be able to assist them with some evacuation planning in the event that they would have an emergency. So we continue to stay engaged and involved in the community itself. Any questions?
Any questions for the fire chief? Thank you, Chief Judge, appreciate you. We do have a closed session scheduled, and Attorney Jackson, would you give us the proper wording for a motion to go into closed session?
If you desire to, it would be appropriate to adopt a motion to go into closed session as allowed by North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3 to consult with the town attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege, which is hereby acknowledged. Under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A5 to establish the position to be taken by the public body concerning the amount of compensation and other material terms of an employment contract or proposed employment contract, and under General Statute 143-318.11A6 to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment or employment of an individual public officer or employee.
Is there such a motion?
I'll make the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, council will convene in the conference room in a couple of minutes.
only continue here to tell me to go home.
If there's no more important business to come before this board, we are adjourned.